One of the things, someone who's been teaching a long time, that always makes me laugh is that a lot of my students are willing to pay tens of thousands of dollars to send their children to private schools in Canada and Britain. But when it comes to them learning the English language, they want the cheapest price possible, right? Okay, I'm Brendan Halligan. Just a quick introduction. I've been a teacher for about 20 years now. I was a professor of applied linguistics. I was a professional development trainer for the British Council. And, I have a master's of applied linguistics and a teaching certificate from Cambridge University. And what I wanted to talk about today, this is my first video, was what makes a bad teacher in English and what you should be looking for in a good teacher. And what I'd like to start with is in Ukraine or Russian, Ukrainians and Russians would understand this, the Zhiguli. Zhiguli was an old Soviet car. And today, of course, if they have a choice, they will spend, 5-10 times more to buy a Mercedes than it will to buy the old Soviet Lada or Zhiguli, we used to call them. And then, of course, the reason why is even though the Zhiguli is cheaper, they understand it will break in 2 years and the Mercedes will last for 15 years, which means, long term, you actually make money on your Mercedes, right? It's called resale value. Now, but in English, of course, most of my students, they need English for business, for promotions, for, increase their salary. The better your English, the more money they make, the better the jobs they have, but yet they think that the cheapest option is the best option, which, of course, if you think about it, makes absolutely no sense, but that's how it is, right? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about the two types of teachers that people usually choose because they're cheaper, but the problems you can have with these teachers. The first teacher I want to talk about is the teacher with great teaching qualifications but doesn't speak English as a first language. It's their second language, right? Now, I'm not saying all English teachers who speak English as their second language are bad. I know great English teachers from Poland, from Ukraine. The thing is, it's very uncommon, and to be honest, those teachers charge hourly about the same as I charge hourly. And the biggest problem with these type of teachers who are good teachers but don't speak English as a first language is, well, there's a couple of problems. The first mistake is that, I'll give you an example. Years ago, I was doing some teacher training. I was developing a course for a school. I'm not going to name names. And I went in for the meeting and they were showing me their English materials before. And so they gave me one of their lessons that they were using as an example. And I looked at the first lesson they gave me as an example. I looked, first question, first lesson. It says, every Sunday we go to a restaurant, right? Oh, sorry, pardon me. I got that wrong. Every Sunday we go to the restaurant. And I looked at it, and of course, first thing I said, I was like, that's a mistake. And the manager, who speaks great English, he goes, what do you mean? And I said, it's not every Sunday we go to the restaurant, it's every Sunday we go to a restaurant. And if your English is good enough, congratulations, you know the problem. Because of course it's about articles, it's about definitive and non-definitive. And if you say the restaurant, what restaurant do you mean? It's a specific, there's no the restaurant. You have to use a restaurant because you're going to one of the restaurants you go to each Sunday. Now, it's not a big mistake, right? That's just a little bit of an article mistake. And the problem is there was 1,000 high school students who were in this program. And every single one of them, first day, first lesson, first question, looks and they see this question, this statement that says, every Sunday we go to the restaurant, and they think, oh, okay, this is the article I use. And then what happens, of course, these are 16, 17-year-olds. the longer they continue to make this mistake because they think it's the correct one, because it was in an English lesson, the harder it is for someone like me to correct it 10, 15, 20 years down the line. Now, of course, that's just a small article mistake. One of the more common mistakes with people who don't speak English as a first language is pronunciation, right? I sit with students every day and we just work on pronunciation, right? Because they want to sound Canadian, they don't want to sound Ukrainian. If you have a teacher who teaches you to pronounce a word wrong, and you continue to use this word like they're using it, then what happens, of course, is it is very hard to get your brain to change it. And so, as a result, it always comes down to, for every hour, for me to teach a student something important like grammar, present simple, for example, I can do it in an hour. If you have had a mistake with the grammar, with the present simple, and you've had this mistake for, years, it will take me much, much, much longer to fix that mistake. And of course, the longer it takes me to fix that mistake, the more money it costs you. It's cheaper for you just to do it in an hour than me taking 4 hours to do it. Now, that's the, non-native English teacher. The other mistake is the exact opposite. It's the native non-teacher, I guess we can call it. These days, we have a lot of these online. I see them, like all these websites. 100,000 teachers on some of these websites. It's madness. How do you have 100,000 English teachers in the world? And the answer is you don't, right? A lot of those teachers on those websites, of course, it's a housewife in Alabama. It's a college, a 20-year-old kid in college in Ottawa, like I was, who just wants to make a little bit of money, and so they're going to teach you English. Now, you think because they speak English like me, and to be fair, Masters of Applied Linguistics, maybe my English is a little better than a lot of theirs, but anyways, even if their English was as good as mine, they still don't know how to teach. They don't know the tactics, they don't know the strategies, they don't know ways that you can get a piece of language information into the brain in the quickest and the most economic way. And so, of course, what this means is, say, for example, I could teach you in an hour passive voice, longer for passive voice, but you know what I mean. In an hour, my passive voice lesson could take them 4 hours, right? So if I'm charging around $35 to $40 an hour, which is what I do these days, most qualified teachers, I'm in Kiev, do about that. If I'm charging 35 and you're paying an American housewife $10 an hour, but it takes them 4 times longer, you actually save money if you have someone like me, right? Now, the other thing too, which is very important, is that not all English is the same, right? So a couple days ago, I was talking to a student in New York, actually, a foreign student in New York, and we were discussing this. And she was talking about how one of her friends, who was a doctor, was looking for an English teacher. And so I said, well, I can do this. And she says, well, it's medical English. And I said, well, to be fair, professional development trainer, that was actually my job. My master's is in teaching things like medical and legal English. So I'm very qualified. I used to teach epidemiologists in Kiev who are going to medical conferences. That was one of my jobs. And so I was like, I'm pretty qualified to do this. But I understood her point, though, because, of course, if she goes online and she just picks up a student who's doing a sociology degree at Stanford even, how do they know what language, what grammar, what voice to use in medical English? Of course they don't. So what are they going to teach them? Either they're going to teach them nothing, or they're going to teach them things that are wrong, right? No matter what, that does not help them with their job or their application or their salary. Now, those are the two bad ones. Now, what I want to say is, the last thing I want to say is, how do you find a good teacher? Well, hello. One of the things I think is important is that when you have a new teacher, And especially if it's more money. If it's cheap, you have to understand the teacher's probably bad, right? You get what you pay for. You get the Zhiguli or you get the Mercedes, right? But if you want the best teachers, I would always say, ask to see their CV, ask to see their university degrees. Take a look at this, right? There's nothing wrong with it. I have no problems at all personally. If a student says, can I see your master's, your transcripts or something like this? I got you, right? Because, I have so many qualifications, it almost sounds like I'm lying to you. And to be honest, online, most of these teachers are lying to you, right? There's not 100,000 masters of education on some of these websites, right? And by the way, the ratings, it's very easy to get a 5-star rating. What you do is you get 5 friends to rate you 5 stars, and then there you go. You're the best teacher on the website. So always keep that. What I would say is a good trick is to think, if someone was applying for a job and you were interviewing them, what would you look into when you were deciding whether to hire them for your job or not to hire them? Because of course, you're doing exactly the same when you're picking a teacher. The last thing I'd also say is word of mouth is also very, very important. Right? If you have a friend who's got a great teacher, then that is more precious than gold, to be honest, right? Keep them, make sure they're well paid, make sure they're happy, right, in your circle. Because it is very hard. I know in Ukraine, for example, I think there's, and I know maybe 5 to 6 other teachers with my qualifications in Ukraine. To be honest, we all know each other and we all charge around the same amount of money because, of course, if one person charges less, then we all have to charge less. So we've all agreed, generally speaking, on how much we pay per hour. And that's it. I hope that helped you. I hope I gave you some information that might make you better choices. Of course, if you like this video, there's that like button you hit. And if you want to contact me, maybe for work for myself, some private classes, maybe some copy editing if you need someone to proofread one of your papers and stuff, I've done them all, right? All of my contact information is also below this video. So have a great day. I hope you have a great holidays, and bye.